Hello there, and welcome to Bright Horizons Live. I'm Leslie Holt, Senior Manager of Social Media here at Bright Horizons, and I'm so excited to be here with you in celebration of World Book Day. Now, what exactly is World Book Day? Well, it's a celebration of everything books and the reasons why we love reading so much. Now, because Bright Horizons is a childcare company, we want to take the opportunity to really come to our audience to have a conversation on promoting early literacy for young children. And without further ado, I'd love to be able to introduce to you our guest for today. She's not only a parent and an educator, but she's also co-host of the Teach, Play, Love podcast with Rachel Robertson, and also the Senior Manager for Family and Client Support here at Bright Horizons. So without further ado, here is Claire Goss.
Hi, Leslie. Thank you so much for having me today. People know this about me. There's nothing I love to talk about more than books. So thanks again for having me.
No, I'm so excited to be able to have this conversation with you, Claire. I have such a respect for the work that you do and for the support that you offer to all of our families here at Bright Horizons. So just to be able to have the opportunity to talk to you about something that I love so much, which is early literacy, is just a fantastic opportunity. So I'm really excited to be able to talk to you today.
Yay, let's talk about books. Let's do it.
Cool. Sounds good to me. Now, Claire, I did ask you to bring your favorite book or a book to the live stream event today. So if you don't mind sharing with me what book you brought.
Yeah, well, so I thought really hard about this because I have so many at my home and we have so many here at the office. And I just decorate. You can see behind me, I decorate my office with them. My favorite book from my childhood, I still have a copy of it at my house, but when I picked it up last night, it kind of started falling apart even more. It's already falling apart. It's the book I Am a Bunny by Richard Scarry, which is a great book, but I didn't want to bring it with me. It's a little too precious. So the book I have with me today is called Wonder Walkers by Micah Archer. And it's a wonderful children's book. It's one of our growing books of excellence for our growing readers program, which I can talk a little bit more about in a moment. But it's just, as you can see, it's got these beautiful illustrations and it's all about being outdoors in nature. And it's just combines two of my favorite things, which is being outside and exploring the world and reading. What did you bring, Leslie?
I love it. Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. Now, I think we're on the same wavelength when it comes to the books about bunnies. So the book that I brought is actually The Rabbit That Listened. And I love this book so much because when I was a director within the center, we really would use this book to just talk to our students about their own emotions and having a sense of empathy for other people. And when they are dealing with any types of problems, just a healthy way to be able to sort through those different feelings. So, I'm all team feels when it comes to our young friends. I absolutely love being able to read this book to them for sure. Yeah. Now, Claire, I really want to go ahead and get this conversation started with you about World Book Day and everything on the topic of books. And so many of the individuals watching this live stream right now are either educators or parents. So we know that there's going to be a little bit of something for everyone who's tuning in right now. But the initial question that I want to go ahead and get started with is just around the topic of stories for young children. We know that it needs to be an engaging experience, whether you're within the classroom or if you're at home. So what can you tell me about what really makes a great story for young children?
I mean, there's so many things to consider when you pick up a book for your child. I think, and people have whole careers just selecting children's literature. You're looking for the characters. Are they relatable? You're looking for a good plot. You're looking for, are the illustrations beautiful? Are they artful? Do they mean something to me? There's a lot of different factors to consider. Yeah. If you are feeling overwhelmed, if you walk into the library or you walk into your local bookstore and you are feeling overwhelmed with the choices in children's literature, as anyone would, I cannot recommend enough checking out our Growing Readers program here at Bright Horizons. It's a free resource available to all families. It's on our website. And we review books. We have a team of educators who are experts in children's literature and literacy, and they will do the work for you. They pick out, that's what I was mentioning before. We've got these books of excellence. It's got our little seal of approval here on it. Books for infants through school age. So check that out if you're feeling, I sometimes get really overwhelmed too, and I've been looking at children's literature for decades. So check out our Growing Readers program for help.
Love it. Now, with you on the topic of the Books of Excellence and the Growing Readers program, we know that early literacy is such an important component of the Bright Horizons curriculum. And we know that it's a huge focus when it comes to teaching teachers about the process of reading and what that looks like also. What can you tell me about some of the most important aspects of children's books?
Yeah. About children's book, well, reading in general is reading aloud to young children is one of our signature practices of our discovery driven learning framework here at Bright Horizons. So it's something that we strive to do every single day in every single classroom. I encourage all parents out there who are listening. It does not matter if you've got a baby who is 1 day old or in middle school. Read with your children. Read aloud, and if your middle schoolers will even tolerate it, still continue to read aloud to them. The most important part of story time with your child is you. You as the parent, you as the caregiver, as the educator, you are creating warmth and love and nurturing. It's a point of connection with your child. Take advantage of that. It should be enjoyable. Our main goal in early childhood is to foster a love of reading. Okay, we want children to love reading, look forward to story time, we want them to love books. So that's the number one thing I would strive for. If you're trying to figure out where to start with that. Start with that connection and that warmth.
Yeah, yeah. And while we're on the subject of that connection, we know that the involvement between the parent and the child, especially when it comes to reading, there's so many different important aspects of that. What can you tell me about the bonding time between parents and children, and why it's so special to take advantage of those moments of reading with them when you have the opportunity to do so?
Yeah, it's exactly that word, connection. That's what we're doing during story time. We're basically saying, listen, our children, again, no matter how young they are, can see how busy our lives are. We are very busy people.
Yeah.
When you are having reading time, story time with your children, and you're looking at books with your kids, you're saying to them, this is what's important to me right now. Okay. There's nothing else going on in our lives that's more important to me right now than having you sitting next to me on the couch or on my lap. And we're looking at this together. We're sharing an experience together. And it is the point of bonding and nurturing and connection. And you're doing so much for them. You are increasing their language skills. You are introducing them to vocabulary. So their language development is happening. Maybe you're working on some fine motor skills. You're encouraging your toddler to grab that little page and turn the book. They're learning about, if you want to use your finger and even follow along with the text as you're reading it, they're learning that the letters don't mean anything to them yet, but they will very soon. Text goes from left to right. We turn the pages of a book from this way to that way. And they're even learning about books. You can talk about the cover of the book. You can talk about the back cover. You can talk about who the writer is, who's the illustrator. This is all part of becoming a reader someday. It's all components of literacy.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that you're breaking that down, because one of the conversations that I absolutely loved having with our parents in the center were just around the teachable moments that happen when you're in that journey of parenting and not realizing that this moment that I'm spending with my child reading a book to them, there's so many different things that they're learning, so many different things they're learning from me, so many things that they're learning from the pages of the book itself. So I really do appreciate that.
Yeah. Another thing I just want to emphasize too that's happening is there's a lot of good social emotional learning happening during story time. And that's something that we put a lot of emphasis on at Bright Horizons. But you can use story time. It doesn't have to be a book specifically. There are certainly a lot of children's books that focus on social emotional learning, and we've got those recommendations over on our Growing Readers program. But any book you pick up can be about feelings and about emotions. So again, no matter what age your child is, you've got a 1-year-old, you've got a 7-year-old on your lap, you can pause and say, how do you think that character's feeling? What emotions do they have? And then you can work on those critical thinking skills, which is some of our cognitive. So we've got language development, physical development, social emotional development, and you've got some cognitive development happening well. Work on those thinking and learning skills, right? Like, what do you think that character is going to do next? Can you make a prediction about that? How do you think that character's feeling now? That's different than how they felt before. Make some observations, encourage that thinking to happen.
Right, for sure. You know what? I love that you mentioned that depending on the age of the child, your strategy or your approach might have to be just a little bit different. So especially when it comes to keeping a child engaged in reading, what are some tips that you have to help a child to stay engaged in the book that they are reading?
Yeah, great question. And depending on the temperament of your child, you might have a really hard time sustaining their interest, right? So again, I did this as an educator, as a toddler educator and a preschool educator, and as a mom of 3. First of all, you want this, again, to be a joyful experience, okay? So the way that kids are going to stay engaged is if they're having a good time. And whether that means that they're feeling sleepy and they want to like lean into you, make it a cuddle fest, or maybe they're feeling more active and they're like kind of motoring around the room as you're reading them. That's okay. Make it a fun, enjoyable experience for your child. A great way to get them engaged is to let them pick some books out. right? Like go to the library. Maybe you've got a list, your growing readers book list that you brought. You can get those books. Let them pick out a couple, right? What appeals to you? You can learn a lot about your child by just seeing what books they're interested in, what are they drawn to, what kind of illustrations, what kinds of topics are they drawn to. Let them have some control over story time. Not you're allowed to decide, how many books are being read. You're allowed to set some limits around story time, but within those limits, what book do you want to read first? Do you want to turn the pages, or do you want me to turn the pages? And if you've got really little ones, if you're talking about infants and young toddlers here, they lose interest when you kind of painstakingly read every single word. You don't have to do that with babies and toddlers during story time. You can just sit on the lap and flip open the page and take a picture walk together. What do you see on this page? And for those of you who have infants that aren't verbal yet, you're labeling things for them on this page. And that's why books that have really wonderful illustrations are so great, because you can just flip open the page. Yes, there's going to be text, a wonderful plot written by the writer. But for an infant, that's not what's important. It's that you're going to say, oh, I see a bird on this page. That bird is flying. Turn the page. On this page, there's a brown dog. That brown dog looks so happy. I can see that he's wagging his tail. You're just narrating what you see in the pictures with babies. And that's going to turn into toddlers and preschoolers who want to hear every single line of text in that book. And in fact, they'll want to hear it over and over again. And then they'll know if you skip. They'll know if you skip a page.
Right.
But it starts out with just getting them engaged in the book that's in front of them in any way that makes sense for them.
Yeah, no, that totally is great advice, and I absolutely love that. And you mentioned that sometimes children are going to want to read the same book over and over and over again. So I have two questions for you. One, as a parent, have you ever encountered the experience where your children have asked you to read the same exact book every single night? And two, why do children have a love to read the same exact book over and over?
Yeah. So, yes, the answer is yes to your first question. I have encountered this with all three of my kids. They all got really attached to a different book. And I did it too. There was a little golden book. I was a child of the 80s. There was a little golden book called The Pokey Little Puppy.
I remember those. Yeah, okay.
Gosh, I made my mother read The Pokey Little Puppy 100,000 times probably. And for whatever reason, preschool Claire really loved that book. And my oldest child, who's now in high school, for some reason got really attached to this board book about Thomas the Tank Engine. And it was not my favorite book. And not by a long shot, but didn't she just keep asking for it night after night after night, sometimes multiple times in one night. And thankfully I was able to have enough patience and education myself to know that, look, something's going on with this kid. She is really attached to this book. There's something about this book in her brain, in her social emotional development, that she latched onto it. And so we did read it over and over again. So what we know is it's really, really good for kids. It's actually a really good sign, though it takes a lot of patience from us as the adults in their lives to read it again and again and again. And they know if you skip a page and they know if you're rushing, they'll say, no, slow down. This is my favorite part. Read it slower. Yeah. Their brains are working really hard on processing it. They are memorizing it. They are encoding it. They are learning about language. They are learning about the vocabulary in there. And it's okay if you're getting bored. It's maybe you can talk about that. You can say, we're going to take a break from this for tonight, and we're going to go back to it again tomorrow night. It's okay to try to set some of those limits, but really, it's really good stuff that's happening in your child's development. And at the end of the day, remind yourself what the goal is. The goal is to create a love of reading and a love of books in your child. And if there's that one particular book, it's a great sign. It means they're really getting lit up inside about reading. So if you can dig deep with the patience and keep going with that book. And I promise they will move on from it someday. They will.
Right. And one thing I heard from that also is just, again, the teachable moment and being able to communicate to parents that sometimes you just have to have patience to learn from that experience and what that child is teaching you about that specific book and their particular interest in it. When I was growing up, I was always very much so set on reading a particular book about, tractors and everything that was big trucks and 18-wheelers. And even though I asked my mom every single night for like a good year to read it to me every single night before bed, she never got frustrated by it, but instead developed ongoing experiences where maybe it was once a week we would go to like the sand and gravel pit and get a chance to take a look at the different trucks. So even for our parents out there, just take those moments that you learned something about your child and figure out how to encourage their inquisitivity just a bit more from that experience. So That's
exactly right. And if you think about, children like to repeat everything they're interested in. right? So books are no different. Like you have to practice things a lot to get good at them and feel comfortable with them.
Yeah.
So it's all just great learning. Your mom, what a rock star parent. She just decided to lean into it and go with it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
fantastic.
she's pretty cool. But I got one more question for you. So my
Yes.
last question is along that same topic of a child picking the same book over and over. How would you encourage a child to choose a different book? What strategies would you offer to our parents?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to what I mentioned earlier, which is let them have some choices, right? So if they have a favorite book that they're really attached to during a certain phase of their development, you're going to have to lean into that. But take them to the library, take them to the bookstore, show them the huge breadth of selections that are available to them. If they are feeling overwhelmed, get your stack of Growing Readers books out and say, look at this wonderful stack of books that I have. You can curate it. If a huge shelf is too much for them at the library, bring home a stack of 8 books and say, and make your own curated list. Again, can't emphasize Growing Readers enough for this. I've read so many wonderful children's books recommended by our Growing Readers team. And also there's on the Growing Readers site, there's some wonderful tips for parents there about reading. We also got a virtual book club with teacher Nate, where he talks about open-ended questions you can engage your children with. And if you just keep giving these choices to your children, have them around, have books everywhere. That's how you're going to get your kids interested in more books.
Yeah.
Have them in the car, have them in the coffee table in the living room, have them in the bedroom, have them in the bathroom. Have books everywhere, and you will all of a sudden one day see your kid walking by without that Thomas the Tank Engine book, a different book that they've, on their own volition, on their own time, decided to pick up and flip through, and they found something in there that lit them up a little bit.
Right. No, I absolutely love that. And, I've really enjoyed this conversation with you. I don't know about our viewers, but I know that I've certainly learned something new, just about new strategies for engaging children a bit more and how to make reading fun. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. So I appreciate you stopping by to join us today, Claire.
Leslie, anytime you want to talk about books, give me a call. Anytime.
That sounds like a plan. And for everyone who is watching us, thank you so much for joining us for Bright Horizons Live today, and happy World Book Day to you.
Bye. Thanks.